mutated lizards run all over the lab while Dr. Young Gisu kills his assistant and runs the test to use his latest serum. Dr. Gisu is doing this to cure his sick daughter So-Yeon, who is kept alive using machines. At that moment, the senior researcher storms into the lab with the authorities to arrest him for having killed over 100 people with his experiments. Gisu tells them that he only did so to save his only daughter, and that his serum is safe because he had already injected himself with it. He proceeds to inject the serum to his daughter, but he is shot down. Suddenly, an earthquake hits the area, and the entire building starts shaking. Outside, all the buildings in the city start collapsing, and Gisu uses this commotion to use his serum on So-Yeon. The authorities run away to save themselves, but Gisu protects his daughter. The earthquake eventually destroys everything, only leaving a desolate wasteland. 18-year-old Choi Ji-won is outside his settlement looking for something to hunt with his bow. He leaves the cat alone, but he suddenly hears a growling noise. Ji-won spots a crocodile, so he hides behind a car. He uses alcohol and lights his arrow on fire. He aims for its eyes and releases the arrow but misses the mark. The crocodile squirms in pain and goes down. Ji-won is excited and moves to retrieve his prey, but the crocodile suddenly wakes up and charges towards him. Ji-won shoots his arrows, but he can't pierce the crocodile's skin, so he rushes to hide inside the car, only for the crocodile to jump after him through the window, trying to get him. Ji-won calls for help, and at that moment, the crocodile is pulled back by Namsun, who uses a machete to swiftly decapitate the crocodile. People begin living together in small villages while foraging for resources. Water in particular is a problem because it rarely rains. Venturing outside the village is a terrible idea because there are desperate people out there willing to kill for food, so only a few armed men dare to go out to hunt. Namsun and Ji-won have brought the crocodile back to their village, where they cut it in small chunks and trade them for other supplies. Another teen, Han Suna, and her grandmother Yeon-su come to pick up the meat. Suna trades her art of Namsun for the meat, and Ji-won tries to flirt with Suna, but he isn't successful. Just as they leave, the quiet morning is suddenly interrupted by the arrival of violent gang members who come crashing their car against someone's tent. The gang members introduce themselves as the police and announce that they're looking for a criminal. Since no one says anything, the guys decide to capture random villagers, and this leads to a man defending himself. But the gangster cuts his arm, and this makes everyone afraid. Next, the gangster tries hitting on Suna and she turns him down, but he grabs her by her hair and pushes Grandma Yeon-su to the ground. Ji-won runs for their defense and starts fighting the gang members. He manages to knock them down at first, but soon they surround him and start beating him up together. Namsun gets tired of watching him get beaten and buds in and expertly beats up all the criminals in just a few moves. A guy tries hitting Namsun with a pipe, but Namsun overpowers him and pushes him down on his meat table, demanding information. The gangster explains they work for a man named Tiger, whose name Namsun recognizes. He also notices that the gangsters have clean water and asks for their source. They explain that they got it from the only apartment building still standing. The gangsters ask for Namsun's name, and when they hear the name, they immediately recognize him as the hunter and run away. After this commotion, Namsun and Ji-won continue to trade their meat and return to their tent. They notice a group of well-dressed men and a woman speaking with Suna and Grandma Yeon-su. The woman introduces herself as a teacher and that they have come from the apartment building. She explains that they are looking for teenagers to protect them since they are the future of humanity. Namsun asks how they will protect the teenagers, and the teacher explains that the apartment is protected by a group of military personnel. Hearing this, Namsun agrees, since it is better for Suna and Grandma Yeon-su to go there because of the increasing trouble caused by gangsters like earlier. Suna accepts to leave with them after hearing that they will care for Grandma Yeon-su as well. Before leaving, Suna gifts a drawing of Ji-won to him, which makes him happy. The teacher tells them to leave before night falls, and they bid their goodbyes. Namsun and Ji-won return to their tent, where they hang the drawings presented by Suna on the walls. Ji-won questions Namsun why those people did not take him with them since he is also a teenager. Hearing this, Namsun gets worried, and they both head out with their weapons. Suna and Grandma Yeon-su are walking with those people, and when they notice someone moving in the dark, they rush to hide. But the guide sends a signal with their light and confirms that they are the second group who went to look for teenagers from another village. Both groups continue walking together, and Suna befriends a girl called Lee Juya. As they walk, the grandmother cannot keep up with them. The teacher notices this and advises the grandmother and an old man from the second village to go separately with their guides to a nearby medical facility in the other direction. Suna is hesitant, but Grandma Yeon-su assures that everything will be all right because the teacher warrants for a vehicle to arrive to get them later. Two men take the old man and grandmother towards towards the medical facility. However, just a few minutes later, the group finds a few cars waiting for them, and Suna questions the teacher why Grandma Yeon-soo was sent away if the vehicles were this close already. Sergeant Kwon dismisses Suna's comments and orders the group to leave immediately. As they leave, Suna notices a weird wart behind his ear. Meanwhile, Grandma Yeon-soo and the old man are taken to a chasm left by the earthquake, where the old man is pushed off the edge, and Grandma Yeon-soo gets stabbed. This is seen by Ji-won, who rushes to beat the guys, and Namsun follows him to take care of the guys in a few moves. But shockingly, they find the men standing back up and start fighting them. Ji-won notices one of their traps still untriggered and makes the guy run after him, and to trigger it, and catches the guy off guard. But his enemy uses his knife to free himself and comes after Ji-won. Right when the guy is about to attack Ji-won, a woman comes to his rescue by decapitating the man. Meanwhile, Namsun continues to fight the other guy, and the woman throws her knife at him, and Namsun catches it to decapitate the man. Ji-won wants to go after the others to rescue Suna, but Namsun stops him, and they give Grandma Yeon-soo a proper burial. The woman introduces herself as Lee Yun-ho and explains that she's trying to reach the apartment building to save the residents and her subordinates. Namsun declares that they only want to save Suna, and she better not interfere with them. Yun-ho explains she used to be part of the military, and her team was on the heli when the earthquake occurred. They happened to find the only building that hadn't collapsed and decided to take refuge in the building and rebuild the community. While they worked, Gi-soo showed up and offered his services as a doctor, but after a few days he showed his true nature. Parents started to complain because their kids wouldn't come back after Gi-soo took them for a checkup, so Yun-ho confronted him about it. However, Sergeant Kwon shoots his team member, who wakes up and reveals that they were secretly working with Gi-soo. Sergeant Kwon mentions that Gi-soo's experiments are humanity's only hope and asks her to join them, but Yun-ho becomes furious and attacks the doctor. Her teammates try to take her down, but Sergeant Kwon shoots her arm. With no choice, Yun-ho escapes by jumping through the window. After hearing all this, Namsun agrees to help Yun-ho because they want to rescue Suna too. However, they're going to need a plan to bypass security. Nearby in the ruins of a building, two gangs are making civilians fight for their entertainment, threatening to kill their loved ones if they don't obey. After the match ends, gang leader Tiger asks the other gang if they have anything else to bet, which triggers an argument between them, and this escalates into a violent fight. Right at this time, Namsun arrives with Ji-won and Yun-ho and calls out for Tiger. It turns out Namsun and Tiger used to be boxing rivals, but Namsun always won. Tiger wants revenge, and with all of his gang members present, he orders them to attack Namsun. Both gangs team up to attack the trio, but Namsun and Yun-ho easily beat them. Ji-won defends himself quite well too, and also manages to release all the captured civilians. After beating up the other gang's boss, Namsun defeats Tiger in a few moves as well. The other gang members flee the area, and Namsun captures Tiger and the gangsters who caused trouble back at the village. Namsun interrogates them about their dealing with the apartment people, and starts knocking them down for failing to answer. This causes Tiger to fear for his life, and he confesses about bringing the captured civilians, mainly teenagers, to the apartment, and in exchange they receive clean water for drinking. Tiger also mentions that he's only allowed to enter the apartment on delivery days, and there are still a few days for the next one. Meanwhile, Suna's group arrives at the apartment building, and they're shocked to find plenty of vegetables and clean water available there. There are guards everywhere, and the locals clap to welcome the new group. Soon, Gi-soo arrives and introduces himself as the leader of the community, and immediately offers bottles of clean water, wanting to save some for her grandmother. Suna doesn't drink hers. Suna reaches her assigned apartment, and she is shocked to find supplies, clean clothes, and even running water. After changing, Suna asks about Grandma Yeon-soo, and the teacher informs her a ride is on the way to pick her up. In the next assembly, Gi-soo announces which teenagers got the better grades, and the families of the top 4 students get assigned to the nicest apartments, get exempted from work, and are given extra food supplies. After this, the new group is shocked to find that the children are sent to the 8th floor, and free access to them is restricted for the children's safety. However, Suna questions how she was not told about this, and the teacher reveals that it was explained to her grandmother. Suna accepts and joins up with Lee Ju-yi to move to the 8th floor. Shockingly, the parents are taken to the basement where they are assigned to take care of the water treatment. Lee Ju's parents ask around to find that they are to work on this for long hours every day until another person relieves their shift. Back in Gi-soo's lab, Sergeant Kwon swallows an entire mouse, while the teacher tells Gisu that Suna and Yunho are healthy and perfect for the experiments. Gisu dismisses the teacher after reminding her to get them prepared to start with the experiments. After this, the teacher takes Suna and Juya to the class. While Juya is excited to meet more people of her age, Suna is shocked to find the others in a dazed state. As they proceed to their seats, Suna finds the teens have a scar behind their ears. The teacher starts the lesson, but Suna finds it to be a constant propaganda about Gisu being their savior and how they should be helping Dr. Gisu with his experiments. The teacher finds Suna drawing in her notebook and asks her to listen. But Suna questions about the purpose of all this and why the doctor is only helping the teenagers. The teacher reminds them they should thank the doctor and not question his decisions. Juyi volunteers to help the doctor soon, and the teacher welcomes her. Right then, the soldiers arrive to distribute food and water to everyone. Gisu follows them and announces his wish to save humanity. The teacher points towards Juya, and Gisu comes forward to welcome her to join him for the experiment that evening. Right then, Suna asks the doctor about Grandma Yansu, and he asks the teacher to come forward. While Suna is bothered by their actions, the teacher reveals that her grandmother is sick and is undergoing treatment in the medical facility. Gisu asks her to drink the water and eat the food. He only turns back after Suna holds on to the water bottle. But Suna doesn't drink the water and places it back. We see some blue liquid mixed in the water. Gisu goes back to the lab and injects his latest serum on Sergeant Kwon, who is worried about the completion of the serum since they are running out of teenagers. Gisu tells him not to worry, and he is close to perfecting the serum. After Kwon leaves, Gisu injects the latest serum into a tube behind the shelf full of bottles with snakes. At night, while the teenagers are asleep, Suna slips out of bed and sneaks out of her room. In the basement, the parents of Juya start protesting to the soldier because they want to see their daughter. Gisu is informed of this, and in order to avoid a fallout with the other parents, Gisu comes heads down with Sergeant Kwon. Suna is sneaking outside in the building and she hears people coming. Just in time, she manages to hide by jumping over the balcony. Right at this time, Namsen and the others are on their way to the apartment. While Gisu shows up at the basement to deal with Jua's parents, Suna manages to sneak into his lab and starts going through stuff. She finds his journal about the reptile experimentation and about the death of all the teenagers tested before. Suna proceeds to the inside room where she finds Juya lying unconscious with a machine connected behind her ear and calls out to her. But just then, Gisu brings Jua's parents to the room and he notices the door open and brings Jua's parents. Suna goes to hide and Jua's parents freak out when they see their daughter in that state. Gisu instructs them to not disturb her, and he slides the shelf open to show them how he's been taking care of his own daughter. The parents are horrified to see only the upper body of the girl is left, and Gisu is cruelly preserving her in a glass box that keeps her heart beating because of the serum. Refusing to be part of this, the parents try to wake Juya, but this only makes her have a seizure. Gisu rushes to the machine to help her, but it's too late, and sadly Juya dies. Furious, Gisu repeatedly stabs the father, and when the mother tries to escape, Kwon shoots her. Suna tries her best not to make any sound, but Gisu manages to find her. He ties her up on the operating table and prepares her for the extraction. Suna mentions learning about his experiments and calls him greedy for killing them just so he can live longer. Gisu explains that he uses teenagers because their pituitary glands have a vital component he needs, which he transforms into a serum thanks to the water they drink every day. As he proceeds to cut behind her ear, Suna screams in pain. Meanwhile, Namsen and the others arrive in Tiger's truck pretending to bring their delivery, but the guard points out it's not the right day, and seeing Tiger is unable to come up with an excuse, Namsen knocks the guard out and speeds up, ignoring the soldiers firing at them. He drives through them, smashing through the front gate. He turns the truck and brings down the watchtower and crashes the vehicle right into the building entrance. Tiger rushes to hide while Namsen, Jiwon, and Yunho open fire with the weapons they took from the gang. Soon a few soldiers come closer, so Yunho beats them down and tells them to follow her to save her subordinates first. Jiwon is confused why none of the soldiers are following them here, and the trio soon enters the basement and looks for her team members. They find most of the rooms empty, but Yunho finds them all inside one room. As she proceeds to call for them, Yunho is shocked to find her soldiers are now reptile-like zombies, and they immediately attack her. Namsen quickly shoots them down. Following him, Yunho and Jiwon manage to take down the soldiers coming after them. Namsen checks on them after taking down all the soldiers, and at that moment but Gisu announces through the intercom that he'll let the trio live if they leave now. He asks them for a replay through the intercom in their area, and Namsen mentions that they will leave if he hands over Suna and punches the device, hurting Gisu's ear with the resulting screech. Gisu goes back to his lab and instructs Kwon to order the soldiers to take care of the intruders. Gisu tells Suna to start praying and proceeds to extract the serum from her. Namsen notices the soldiers trying to use a grenade and skillfully shoots at it, killing the soldiers in a surprise attack. Soon backup arrives, so Namsen tells the others to go find Suna while he takes care of the soldiers here. Then Namsen shoots an extinguisher to create a bunch of smoke that he uses as cover while shooting the incoming guards, but he runs out of bullets. He goes for his machete, but he is so bulky, he finds it hard to get hold of it easily. Taking off the sheath, Namsen proceeds into the corridor to chop down the soldiers like butter. When another group of soldiers comes after him, Namsen uses the weapons from the dead guys to kill them all in seconds. Afterward, he goes to the basement and tells the parents hiding there to go out and find their children. Meanwhile, Yunho and Jiwon also keep shooting soldiers as they make their way upstairs. There are too many of them coming, so Yunho stays back and tells Jiwon to go up. She manages to shoot down the soldiers, but after Kwon makes his way to her, she struggles to fight him because he is enhanced with the serum. After lots of struggle, Yunho manages to stab him in the eye, but Kwon peels off his skin to reveal that he has lizard scales that protect him. Yunho tries attacking again, but Kwon easily overpowers her and stabs her before throwing her off the balcony. On the upper floors, Jiwon checks every room and eventually finds the classroom, where he quickly kills the guard. The teacher tries to hide, but Jiwon takes her hostage so she can take him to find Suna. Jiwon also tells the students to run, but none of them even blink. On their way out, Jiwon and the teacher are found by Kwon, but Namsen arrives right then and tells Jiwon to leave and let him take care of the lizard freak. In the lab, Gisu injects the new serum he extracted from Suna into his body, but he immediately feels sick. Right when he starts freaking out, Suna reveals that she never drank the water he gave her that day. Warts appear on Gisu's body as he throws up, but before he can get revenge on Suna, Jiwon arrives with the teacher. Gisu warns him by threatening Suna, and a soldier attacks Jiwon from behind to knock him down. Then Gisu orders the teacher and the soldier to put his daughter in the briefcase while he retrieves all the tubes with the serum. Namsen is fighting Kwon, and despite his serum enhancement, Kwon finds it difficult to defeat Namsen. Kwon mentions how he will never die, and Namsen grabs onto Kwon and throws him through the window. Kwon grabs onto him, and Namsen impales Kwon's neck on the broken glass and decapitates him. The parents manage to take their kids outside the building, and soon Namsen reaches the lab and takes the soldier's gun to shoot her and the teacher. Gisu ignores the teacher's pleas for help and escapes through the back door after dropping a grenade. Jiwon runs to turn the table over and protects Suna from the blast, while Namsen gets thrown back in the other room. The blast wakes Yunho up and she heads up. The lab is on fire, and Namsen finds that both Suna and Jiwon are alive. Outside the building, the residents see Gisu trying to escape and start beating him up for what he did to the kids. They also destroy all the serum tubes, but they step away when they see the doctor's face transforming. Furious, Gisu grabs a weapon and opens fire like a maniac, killing a bunch of residents, but he also accidentally shoots his suitcase in the process. The liquid starts leaking, and Gisu opens to find that he ended up killing his daughter in the end. He notices Namsen walking out from the building, and Gisu takes the gun to open fire at the building. Suna and the others walk out the other side and distract Gisu, and Namsen shoots at him, finally killing the mad doctor. Yunho appreciates Namsen for his help and announces she'll stay back to rebuild the community. Suddenly, the sky goes dark and it starts raining. The survivors rejoice, and Suna tells Namsen and Jiwon that it is time to go home. They take Suna to Grandma Yinzu's grave, where she falls to her knees in tears. Soon their lives return to normal, as Suna starts helping Namsen and Jiwon with their meat trade.